Hello, students, and welcome to episode 76 of Max Sensei's online English lessons. It's great to see you again, and today we're going to be talking about American history. But first, I'd like to show you something that my wife made. This is a tote bag, and it's made from patchwork. So all of these are my daughter's outfits that when she got too big for, she couldn't wear these outfits anymore, like pants or dresses or shirts or things like that. And so my wife decided to cut them all up and put them all together, sew them all together into a nice tote bag that we use sometimes for picnics or shopping or things like that. And it's a way to keep those memories alive and remember the nice clothes that my daughter used to wear. Like this was her pants, a pair of her pants that she had, and this was a nice white linen dress and things like that. So I really like this, and it's one of our favorite bags to use. And that's going to be today's topic. We're going to be talking about patchwork in American history, and especially we're talking about quilts. So let's get started. The title of this article is called Women in American History, Quilts. Quilting is an activity that was loved by women throughout American history, and today we are going to take a look at the role that quilting we're going to take a look at the role that quilting had in American history. The quilts that we talk about today are blankets, big, beautiful ones that have a lot of images stitched together on them. It is an important part of American history, especially for women and families. Women did not always get the opportunity to participate in writing about their experiences or creating history. That was usually up to the men. However, through the process of making quilts and from the images depicted on these blankets, women could show how they lived, what they experienced, and what they valued. In early American history, quilts were a necessary household item. Homes were often very cold, especially in winter, and they lacked any heating systems other than a fireplace or stove. Families relied on blankets to keep warm, and they usually made their blankets by hand, using extra fabric from old clothing, flour sacks, or leftover materials. Early American people didn't like to waste anything, so any extra fabric was to be used in some way, which is how quilting became a common hobby. Making a quilt required a lot of patience and skill, and one big blanket could take weeks or even months to finish. The skill of quilting was passed down from generation to generation, mothers to daughters. In this way, quilts connected family members together across time. Quilting also became an important social activity for women to join. Women would often gather for quilting bees, which many women would work together to make a large quilt that would have a theme. These gatherings provided very rare chances for women to gather and talk about their life and get updated on local news and events. This was especially important in more rural areas where women didn't leave the house much. While their hands were busy sewing, they shared news, advice, and stories about their lives. The finished quilt represented cooperation and friendship. For many women, these quilting bees were a meaningful part of community life. One of the most famous quilts in American history is the Bible quilt, made by Harriet Powers. Harriet Powers was a black slave from Georgia in the 1830s. After the Civil War, she supported herself and her family through farming and sewing. She created a quilt that showed different scenes from the Bible or important events that she remembered. Because many slaves never learned to read or write, Powers used this quilt to teach her family and community about the stories from the Bible. Today, her Bible quilt is preserved in the Smithsonian's National Museum of American History in Washington, D.C. Another famous quilting tradition comes from a place in a rural community town of Alabama called Gee's Bend. For generations, the women of Gee's Bend made quilts for practical use, often using clothing and work fabrics. These quilts were not made as forms of art, but just to be used to keep families warm. However, in the late 20th century, people outside the community started to notice that the techniques used in these quilts had very striking designs. The quilts from Gee's Bend are known for their bold colors and unusual patterns that look almost like modern art. Many of these blankets are displayed in modern art museums, even though they are not modern art at all. The women who made them were often amazed to learn that their work was admired around the world. Quilts were also important during times of hardship and war. During the American Civil War, women made quilts and blankets for soldiers, often stitching messages or patriotic symbols into the fabric. These quilts were acts of care and support, created by people who could not fight but wanted to help. Later, during the Great Depression, families once again relied on quilting because money was scarce. Old clothes were cut into pieces and reused, and quilts became symbols of resilience and creativity during difficult times. Today, quilts are studied by historians and displayed in museums because they provide valuable insight into daily life. They show what materials were available, what styles were popular, and how communities worked together. Modern quilters continue this tradition, sometimes creating quilts to honor family members or to express social ideas. Although the materials and designs may change, the basic purpose remains the same. Quilts in United States history remind us that important stories are not always written in books. Sometimes they are stitched quietly, piece by piece, by ordinary hands. Through quilts, we can see how women expressed care, faith, memory, and strength. These handmade objects connect the past to the present and show how creativity and community have always been part of American life. All right, you guys, let's take a look at our... Oh, there I am. Let's take a look at our vocabulary for today. We have 5 words. So let's look at number 1. The first word is depict. Depict. And depict means to show something using pictures or images. In today's essay, the quilts had images depicting biblical events or something like that. The next word is preserve. Preserve. Preserve means to keep something safe and in good condition for the future. In the essay, we talked about the Bible quilt being preserved in the Smithsonian Museum. Number 3, symbol. Symbol. A symbol is something that represents a bigger idea or feeling. So we said quilts are a symbol of community in between women in American history. So the bigger idea is women's community in American history, and the quilt is a small thing that represents or shows that. Number 4 is resilience. Resilience. Resilience means the ability to stay strong and continue during difficult times. So, in the essay, we talked about the Civil War and about the Great Depression. And women were still able to sew quilts together and stay strong. They continued that passion or that hobby with passion. And number 5 is the word insight. Insight. Insight means a clear or deep understanding of something. So we talked about in the essay that historians for American history, they can look at quilts and gain insight into what the people in American history valued and what they cared about a lot. Okay. All right, I'm back. Hey. So let's move on to our discussion questions. We have 5 questions that we want to ask today. So please answer them the next time we meet, or leave a comment or email. Anything is okay. The first question is, have you ever done sewing, knitting, or handcrafts before? What did you make and who was it for? Number 2, did your mother, grandmother, or another family member make things by hand? What do you remember about that, about watching them work? Okay, number 3. When you were younger, were handmade items more common than today? How were they different from the things we buy now? So how was it different from today? Okay, number 4. Have you ever worked together with others to make something, like cooking, sewing, or preparing for an event? How did that experience feel? And number 5, if you made a quilt about your life, what kinds of pictures or memories would you include? All right. So for number 5, for me, if I made a quilt about my life, I would definitely need things from both America and things from Japan. I, of course, come from San Francisco, so I think things like the Golden Gate Bridge, which is a symbol of not only San Francisco, but of California. So that would be an amazing image in maybe one of the squares on a quilt. But another one could be something from Japan, like cherry blossoms. That would be a really cool way of showing the beauty of nature in Japan. How about you guys? What would you put on your quilt if you made a quilt about your life? I'm excited to hear your guys' answers, and thank you so much for watching this video. This was episode 76, and I will see you guys for the next episode in a month. Okay, goodbye everyone.